The protectors arrived the starship, descended through Earth's atmosphere, like a silver needle threading cosmic fabric. High Commander Zephyx of the Sentinel Coalition stood on the observation deck, his four eyes tracking the blue planet below with a mixture of admiration and sorrow. In his 300 years of service, he had seen this scenario play out too many times. A young civilization, blissfully unaware of the darkness lurking in the galaxy, about to face extinction. His chest tightened with the familiar weight of responsibility. Beside him, Science Officer Mira adjusted her sensory equipment, her translucent skin flickering with nervous bioluminescence. She had reviewed Earth's technological profile a dozen times during their journey. Chemical propulsion, early fusion experiments, primitive computational systems. By galactic standards, humans were infants taking their first steps into a universe filled with predators. The flagship touched down outside Geneva, and within hours, the meeting was arranged. The Sentinel Coalition had perfected this process over centuries. Arrive with overwhelming evidence of danger. Offer protection. Evacuate the salvageable population before the threat arrived. It was never pleasant, but it was necessary. The alternative was total annihilation. The conference room was surprisingly modest. Zephyx had expected something more grandiose from a species' first contact with alien intelligence. Instead, he found himself in a simple chamber with large windows overlooking mountains. 3 humans waited for them. General Marcus Chun wore a military uniform with minimal decoration, his dark eyes sharp and analytical. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, introduced as Earth's lead xenobiologist, had prepared for this meeting her entire career, yet she seemed remarkably composed. Ambassador James Whitmore completed the trio, an older man with silver hair and a diplomat's careful smile. Zephyx began his presentation with holographic displays showing the devastation left by the void swarm. Entire star systems consumed. Civilizations that had thrived for millennia reduced to empty shells. The images were horrifying, designed to convey the absolute urgency of the situation. He had given this presentation 43 times before. The reactions were always the same: fear, denial, panic, and finally desperate acceptance. The humans watched in silence. General Chun took notes on a tablet. Dr. Okonkwo leaned forward with scientific interest rather than terror. Ambassador Whitmore nodded occasionally, as if confirming information he already possessed. Their calm was unsettling. Zephyx continued his explanation. The Void Swarm was a collective intelligence of biomechanical organisms that consumed all biological matter in their path. They converted living tissue into fuel for their endless expansion. No negotiation was possible. No mercy would be shown. 17 civilizations had fallen to them in the past century alone. The swarm moved between galaxies, leaving silence in their wake. According to Coalition intelligence, the Void Swarm would reach Earth's solar system in 96 hours. Zephyx explained the evacuation plan. His fleet could save perhaps 2 million humans, preserving genetic diversity and cultural records. The rest would perish, but the species would survive aboard Coalition vessels. New colonies would be established on protected worlds. It was not ideal, but it was the only option for a civilization at Earth's development level. When Zephyx finished, he expected questions about the evacuation process. Instead, Ambassador Whitmore spoke first. His voice was measured and polite, with an edge Zephyx could not quite identify. Thank you for this information, Commander. Your concern for our species is genuinely appreciated. However, Earth's Planetary Defense Council will need to review your proposal before we can provide a formal response. We have protocols for situations of this nature. Zephyx felt his translator implant stutter. Protocols for situations of this nature. As if alien invasions were routine administrative matters. He tried again, emphasizing the timeline. 96 hours was barely enough time to begin evacuations. Every moment of delay meant more lives lost. The Void Swarm did not negotiate or postpone. They consumed everything in their path with mechanical efficiency. General Chun responded this time. His tone was friendly but firm. "Commander, we understand the urgency, but Earth cannot make decisions of this magnitude without proper consultation. Our defense networks, our governments, our people all need to be informed and involved in any response. Surely you can appreciate that. Defense networks." Zefix tried not to show his confusion. What defense networks could possibly matter against a threat that had destroyed civilizations centuries ahead of human technology? He glanced at Myra, who was reviewing her scanner with a puzzled expression. She tapped her device twice, recalibrating the sensors. Dr. Okonkwo asked several technical questions about the Void Swarm's biology and attack patterns. Her queries were surprisingly sophisticated, delving into details about their collective intelligence structure and resource consumption rates. She seemed less interested in evacuation logistics and more focused on understanding the enemy's vulnerabilities. Zefix answered as thoroughly as he could, hoping to break through whatever psychological barrier was preventing these humans from grasping their situation. The meeting lasted 2 hours. The humans were courteous, engaged, and completely unwilling to commit to immediate evacuation. They promised to convene their defense council and provide a response within 24 hours. Zefix left the conference room feeling more disturbed than after any previous first contact scenario. Back aboard the flagship, his senior staff gathered for debriefing. Myra presented her findings, and the room fell silent. The sensor data from Earth showed anomalies that should not exist. Power signatures in Earth's orbital space that exceeded expected parameters by orders of magnitude. Unusual electromagnetic patterns around the Moon and in the asteroid belt. Energy readings near Mars that suggested advanced reactor technology. Navigation Officer Kelroth, a veteran of countless missions, voiced what everyone was thinking. These readings suggest technology far beyond what Earth should possess. Either our intelligence was catastrophically wrong, or humans have been hiding their true capabilities. Zefix studied the data with growing unease. The Coalition's reconnaissance had been thorough. Earth's space presence was limited to a few orbital stations and satellite networks. Their fastest vessels used chemical rockets. Their weapons were kinetic projectiles and early directed energy systems. Nothing in their profile suggested the kind of infrastructure these sensors were detecting. Medical Officer Thane, whose species specialized in psychological analysis, offered another perspective. "Commander, consider their behavior in the meeting. No fear response. No desperation. They treated an extinction-level threat as a policy discussion. Either they are in complete denial, or they know something we do not." Zefix ordered additional scans of Earth's solar system, focusing on the outer planets and the regions beyond. The results came back within hours, and they painted a picture that made no sense. Hidden facilities throughout the asteroid belt. Massive installations on the far side of several moons. Energy signatures in the Kuiper belt that could only come from advanced military installations. All of it concealed using stealth technology that rivaled the Coalition's own systems. How long had this infrastructure been in place? The Coalition's last survey of Earth was 30 years ago. Could humans have built all of this in 3 decades? The timeline seemed impossible, yet the evidence was undeniable. Asterisk, a communication arrived from Earth. Ambassador Whitmore's face appeared on the holographic display, his expression neutral. "Commander Zefix, Earth's Planetary Defense Council has reviewed your warning and your offer of assistance. We are grateful for your willingness to help. However, we must respectfully decline evacuation at this time. Earth will handle the Void Swarm threat through our own defensive capabilities." The connection ended before Zefix could respond. The command deck erupted in confused discussion. Mira pulled up tactical displays, showing the approaching void swarm. Thousands of biomechanical entities, each larger than a coalition battleship, moving through space with terrifying coordination. They would reach Earth in 72 hours. Zephyx made a decision that went against every protocol in his career. He ordered the coalition fleet to remain in Earth's solar system. If the humans refused evacuation, the coalition would stay and fight. It was foolish. His 40 ships could not stop the void swarm, but he would not abandon another civilization to extinction, even if they refused to save themselves. Asterisk as his fleet moved into defensive positions near Earth, Zephyx watched the planet rotate below. Somewhere down there, humans were preparing for war with confidence that seemed suicidal. Either they were the bravest fools in the galaxy, or they knew something that would change everything the coalition understood about this species. The answer would come soon enough. The void swarm was approaching, and Earth was about to reveal whether its confidence was justified or simply the final delusion of a doomed world. The Truth Unfolds the Void Swarm arrived 18 hours early, tearing through the fabric of space like a disease spreading through healthy tissue. Zephyx watched from the command deck as reality itself seemed to shudder and split. Through the rupture poured thousands of biomechanical horrors, each one a fusion of organic tissue and cold machinery. They moved with purpose, their collective consciousness coordinating every action with perfect efficiency. The creatures were massive, dwarfing even the coalition's largest warships. Their bodies were covered in metallic plating that grew like scales, pulsing with sickly purple light. Tendrils extended from their central masses, each one capable of latching onto a ship and draining it of all biological material within minutes. Zephyx had seen footage of their attacks. He had spoken with survivors from the few civilizations that managed partial evacuations. Nothing prepared anyone for seeing the void swarm in person. His communication officer established an emergency channel to Earth. General Chun appeared on the screen, and Zephyx was struck by how utterly calm the human looked. There was no panic in those eyes, no fear, just focused attention and something that looked almost like anticipation. General Chun, the void swarm has arrived ahead of projections. My fleet will buy you whatever time we can, but you must begin emergency evacuations immediately. Every transport ship, every escape pod, anything that can carry people away from Earth. Do it now. General. Chun's response made Zephyx question whether his translator was malfunctioning. Commander, I appreciate your concern, but that won't be necessary. Please maintain your current position and observe. Earth's planetary defense force will handle this situation. We've been preparing for this for a very long time. The communication ended. Zephyx stood frozen, unable to process what he had just heard. Around him, his senior staff exchanged bewildered glances. Myra's bioluminescence flickered rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in her species. The void swarm detected the coalition fleet and adjusted their formation. A portion of their force, perhaps 300 entities, broke away from the main group and moved toward Zephyx's ships. It was their standard tactic. Eliminate any military resistance first, then consume the planet at leisure. Zephyx gave the order to engage. His ships opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams lanced across the void. Missile batteries launched their full payload. The coalition had fought the void swarm before and knew their weaknesses. Concentrated fire on their control nodes could disrupt their coordination. High-energy weapons could burn through their organic armor. The initial salvo destroyed 17 swarm entities. For a brief moment, hope flickered in Zephyx's chest. Then the void swarm adapted. Their formation shifted, and they returned fire with weapons that seemed to ignore coalition shields entirely. Protoplasma bolts that ate through hull plating like acid. electromagnetic pulses that fried systems despite all protective measures. 3. Coalition ships went dark within the first minute. Zephyx ordered a tactical retreat, pulling his fleet back toward Earth's orbit. They could not win this fight. The best they could do was delay the inevitable and pray that humans were evacuating while his people died, buying them time. Then something extraordinary happened. Space around Earth began to ripple with energy signatures that made coalition sensors scream with overload warnings. Myra shouted something about impossible power readings, her voice cracking with disbelief. The tactical display lit up with contacts appearing throughout the solar system. Ships materialized from nothing, not arriving through faster than light travel, but simply becoming visible as if they had been there all along, hidden behind technology that made coalition stealth systems look primitive by comparison. Dozens of vessels appeared first, then hundreds, then over 1,000. Each one was enormous, bristling with weapons that radiated energy signatures Zephyx had never seen before. The human warships were unlike anything in coalition records. They were angular and aggressive, designed by engineers who understood that space warfare was about raw power and precise application of force. Their hulls were dark composite materials that absorbed sensor scans. Their engines burned with contained fury that spoke of reactor technology decades ahead of what Earth should possess. A new communication channel opened. Dr. Okonkwo appeared on the screen, but she was no longer in a civilian research facility. She stood in a military command center, surrounded by tactical displays and uniformed personnel. Her expression was professional and focused, the look of someone who had trained for this moment their entire life. Commander Zephyx, this is Dr. Sarah Okongwo, currently serving as fleet coordinator for Earth's Outer System Defense Network. All human vessels are now active and at combat readiness. We have 1,247 warships in position. I'm transmitting safe zones for coalition vessels. Please move your fleet to these coordinates immediately. Zephyx could not speak. His mouth moved, but no words emerged. 1,247 warships. Earth supposedly had a handful of experimental spacecraft. Where had this armada come from? How long had it been hiding in the darkness beyond human settlements? Navigation Officer Kelroth was already moving the coalition fleet to the designated safe zones, following the human instructions without waiting for orders. On the tactical display, Zephyx watched as the human ships arranged themselves in a formation that demonstrated sophisticated military doctrine. They were not panicking or scrambling to respond. This was a planned defense, executed with precision that spoke of extensive training and preparation. The void swarm detected the human fleet and paused. For the first time in recorded history, the biomechanical collective hesitated. Their formation rippled with uncertainty as their collective intelligence processed this unexpected variable. They had encountered thousands of species across multiple galaxies. None had surprised them like this. Ambassador Whitmore's voice came across a general BROADCAST that every ship in the solar system could receive. His tone was no longer diplomatic and polite. It was cold and absolute, carrying the weight of a species that had survived everything their planet and their own nature had thrown at them. This is Ambassador James Whitmore of Earth, speaking on behalf of the United Planetary Defense Council. To the entities that have entered our solar system without permission, you have made a critical error in judgment. You came here expecting to find helpless prey. You were wrong. You have 10 seconds to begin your retreat. If you remain, we will interpret your presence as an act of war. Choose wisely. The Void Swarm responded with their standard communication. Pure mathematical aggression that translated to a simple message. Surrender or be consumed. They had never retreated in their entire expansion across the galaxies. They would not start now. The human fleet opened fire, and Zephyx learned what true warfare looked like. The first weapons to engage were railguns, but not the primitive kinetic weapons Coalition intelligence had documented. These were electromagnetic accelerators that hurled tungsten projectiles at velocities approaching 15% of light speed. The rounds hit void swarm entities with such force that they simply ceased to exist. Converted to superheated plasma by the kinetic impact dot, then came the energy weapons. Particle beams that carved through biomechanical armor like surgical lasers through flesh. Plasma cannons that fired contained stars, each shot releasing enough energy to vaporize anything in its path. Missile systems that deployed warheads using principles Zephyx did not recognize, creating spatial distortions that crushed swarm entities like insects. The human attack was not desperate or defensive. It was systematic and brutal, executed with clinical efficiency. Every shot was calculated. Every movement was coordinated. The human fleet fought like a single organism, their tactics suggesting a level of neural integration that rivaled the Void, Swarm's own collective consciousness. Medical Officer Thane's voice was barely a whisper. They are not fighting to survive. They are hunting a Void Swarm Titan-class entity, a creature large enough to crack a planet's crust. Moved toward Earth, it charged its primary weapon, a bioplasma cannon capable of sterilizing continents. Before it could fire, 6 human destroyers intercepted. They were smaller than the Titan, fast and precise like predators cornering prey. Asterisk, the lead human ship transmitted its identification. UPDF Relentless. Captain's voice came through on open channels, calm and professional. Target confirmed. Initiating elimination protocol, the Relentless did not try to fight the Titan conventionally. Instead, it accelerated directly toward the massive creature, its engines burning at maximum output. The other 5 destroyers provided covering fire, creating a corridor through the smaller swarm entities. Zephyx realized what was happening a moment before impact. They are ramming it. The Relentless struck the Void Swarm Titan at tremendous velocity. But this was not a suicide run. At the moment of impact, the human ship triggered some kind of spatial distortion device. Reality warped around the collision point, and both vessels were consumed by an expanding sphere of white energy that looked like a miniature supernova. Asterisk. When the light faded, the Titan was gone. So was the Relentless. But the other 5 human destroyers continued their mission without pause, moving to engage the next target. No hesitation. No mourning. Just cold, professional execution of their duty. The battle continued for 3 hours. The Void Swarm, faced with an enemy that matched their ferocity and exceeded their technology, began to falter. Their collective consciousness, which had conquered civilizations across galaxies, encountered something it had never faced before. Feared out the swarm tried to retreat. The human fleet did not let them. They pursued with relentless determination, destroying every entity that tried to escape. No mercy was shown. No quarter was given. By the time the engagement ended, fewer than a dozen swarm entities had managed to flee back through their spatial rupture dot in the aftermath. Zephyx's fleet floated in stunned silence. The tactical displays showed the debris field left by the battle. Thousands of destroyed swarm entities. 43 human ships lost, their crews having sacrificed themselves to protect their world. But Earth remained untouched, and humanity had just accomplished what no civilization in Coalition history had ever managed. They had defeated a full Void Swarm invasion force. A communication request came from Earth. General Chun appeared on screen, and now Zephyx could see the exhaustion in the human's eyes. Behind him, crew members moved with purpose, already beginning damage assessment and recovery operations. Commander Zephyx, I believe we owe you an explanation. Would you be willing to meet with us again? There's a lot you should know about humanity's history. Hours later, Zephyx sat in the same conference room where this had all begun. This time, The holographic displays showed Earth's history from a different perspective. Dr. Akonchuo narrated, her voice tinged with sadness and pride in equal measure. Humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill us constantly. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, pandemics, asteroid impacts. We survived them all. Then we nearly destroyed ourselves. World wars, nuclear weapons, environmental collapse. We came within minutes of total extinction multiple times. The images showed humanity's brutal history. Wars that killed millions. Weapons that could crack continents. A species that had mastered the art of destruction and turned it on themselves repeatedly. 70 years ago, General Chun continued the story. We unified under a single truth. We would never again be caught unprepared. We began building this defense network in secret, using technology developed from our weapons programs. Every nation contributed. We built ships in the asteroid belt, where no one would see. We trained crews in facilities on distant moons. We prepared for threats we had never encountered, because we knew they were out there. Ambassador Whitmore leaned forward, his expression serious. Commander, you came here thinking we were children who needed protection. But humans have been fighting for survival since we climbed down from trees and picked up rocks. We are not victims waiting to be saved. We are survivors who learned long ago that the only way to guarantee peace is to prepare for war. Zephyx understood now. The calm during their first meeting. The hidden fleet. The brutal efficiency of the battle. Humans had not been in denial. They had been ready. Ready in ways the coalition never imagined. Myra asked the question that everyone was thinking. How did you know the Void Swarm was coming? Dr. Okonkwo smiled slightly. We didn't know about the swarm specifically, but we knew something would come eventually. The universe is too big and too old for Earth to remain undiscovered forever. So we prepared for everything. The swarm was just the first to test us. Zephyx felt a chill run through his body. The first. As if humanity expected more threats and welcomed the challenge. General Chun stood, extending his hand in the human gesture of respect. Commander, Earth would like to propose a formal alliance with the Sentinel Coalition. We have much to learn from each other. You've been protecting civilizations for centuries. We've been perfecting the art of survival. Together, perhaps we can do more than just survive. Perhaps we can actually win. Zephyx took the offered hand, feeling the strength in the human's grip. He had come to Earth expecting to save a doomed species. Instead, he had found something far more significant. A civilization that refused to be victims. Warriors who had been forged in Earth's brutal crucible and emerged stronger than anyone could have imagined. As his ship prepared to return to Coalition space with news of this extraordinary discovery, Zephyx looked out at Earth one final time. That beautiful blue planet had produced the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever encountered. Not because they were cruel or evil, but because they absolutely refused to give up. Ever. The Void Swarm had learned that lesson the hard way. Zephyx suspected the rest of the galaxy would learn it soon enough. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same. Asterisk.